somebody like her, if she can't find what she's looking for, she's going to go somewhere else.
Right.
And she wouldn't necessarily count toward the 2 point whatever trillion, over 2 trillion. There's a
Because
dispute as to what the decimal point says. I don't think it makes any difference what the decimal point says. It's over
well,
2 trillion, for heaven's sake. That's a lot of money.
yep. Yep. And how have you found the solving of the problem for businesses? When you solve it, you're also solving for a larger market, you found. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Right. So the larger market is the general market. Accessibility equals usability.
Mm.
And like I said, somebody like my mom, a good user experience, if she doesn't have to make an undue effort to buy your product, she's a lot more likely to buy it.
Right. Right. And a lot of people don't understand that having more sections doesn't mean more business. They think more just means more. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us on another episode of Entrepreneurial Truth. On today's podcast, we have Angela Fowler with us, and she's an extraordinary person doing extraordinary things. Angela, I'm going to start today by having you come in and explain who you are, what you're doing, and how you're impacting lives with your business.
Well, hi everybody, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to come on and talk about my business, because it truly is something that isn't being done before in the way that I'm doing it. Yes, my name is Angela Fowler, and my business is called Real Life Access. So what we do, in a nutshell, is we teach businesses how to make their products and services accessible for people with disabilities. Now, when you do that, when you make things accessible for people with disabilities, you're also making them more user-friendly for everyone. And that attracts customers, right? That increases your bottom line. So you're actually leveraging the power of accessibility to increase your bottom line. So I'll give you an example of how this is done. Say you have a website, and the website is really busy. So say you've got a slider, so you've got a bunch of graphics, you've got a lot of stuff on the website, and it's really hard for people to find things. Somebody with attention issues, somebody with with other disabilities might just leave because they can't find what they're looking for. But so also might the person that isn't necessarily tech savvy. Mm-hmm. People like me who have zero patience. If I can't find something in 2.5 seconds, I'm going on to something else, right? Mm-hmm. And so you've inadvertently lost a lot of customers that way. So what I'm going to tell you is, look, design your website with a clean, easy to follow navigation. Make sure that people can find everything they're looking for. And then if you want to spruce it up visually, go ahead. But start first with a clean, simple navigation that they need. Ask yourself, what do I want people to do when they come to my website? And what that's going to do is all those customers that were leaving earlier, they're not going to leave. They're going to come, and they're going to come back. I tend to patronize businesses that patronizing them doesn't require a lot of effort. Yep. Make it easy for me to give you money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, I want you to go into how you started in this. Like, what made you want to develop this business?
So, fun fact about me, I'm totally blind. And I came from the blindness advocacy movement. I spent a lot of time advocating really for the civil rights of blind people. And if you spend enough time in any kind of advocacy movement, there's a risk that you'll get a chip on your shoulder. Well, I had that chip on my shoulder. I mean, I was an angry blind woman in some respects, but I had something of a seismic shift when in 2021 I got a job working on the website of the Department of Veterans Affairs. I was working for a contractor that worked on the VA website, and I was an accessibility specialist. And I started working with designers and developers. And I realized something. These folks had varying degrees of knowledge about accessibility, right? Some folks were already strong in accessibility. Some folks were, they didn't really know. But all of them had one thing in common. They wanted to do the right thing. It just, in some cases, they didn't even know what the right thing was. So I had to stop myself because I realized that if I showed people what a screen reader does, and a screen reader, for those of you who don't know, is the software that enabled blind people to use the computer. So it literally tells me what's on the screen. It reads the screen, hence the name. So basically my computer talks to me, and sometimes when it doesn't work, I talk to it. So once I showed people how a screen reader works and why certain things make the website not work as well for blind people, lights went on, because then they saw, oh, this is why this is a problem, and this is what I can do to fix it. And I realized that anger at these folks is misdirected, because they don't know. You're going to be mad at your kid when they don't know something? No, you're going to teach them.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized, let's translate that over to businesses, right? They don't know the right thing to do. Sometimes folks don't even know there is a right thing to do. How many of you have never seen a screen reader? You've never heard a screen reader work? Probably a lot of you.
Most people, right?
Yeah, most people. So am I going to be mad at you if your website's not accessible? No, I'm not going to be mad at you if your website's not accessible. I'm going to teach you how to make it accessible. And here's how I do it. And at this point, I feel like I need to broaden the subject of accessibility, because websites are a good example of accessibility. So are physical spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So there's actually 3 categories of accessibility. Websites fall under the digital accessibility category. Website, email, social media, all those memes and Giphies or Jiffies or whatever the heck they are. Those things are typically not accessible to screen reader users. So if you post those, you gotta describe them. Advertising. Most of the advertisements I see online, I have no idea what's being advertised.
No way.
I'm not going to buy it if I don't know your product exists. How am I supposed to buy it?
Wow. And can you go into what size market what size market you're in?
Right. So the disability community, you're going to be surprised at this, because I was. The collective buying power of people with disabilities is over $2 trillion. That's trillion.
Right.
That includes seniors. That includes, younger people. The government only measures people ages 18 to 64.
Wow.
Which is ridiculous if you ask me. Now,
yeah.
If a business is accessible, people with disabilities are not only going to use it, but we're going to recommend it to our friends and family.
Right.
And you can't quantify that. You can't quantify that buying power.
Mm-hmm.
You also can't quantify the buying power of increased usability. So the example that I gave of a smooth and seamless navigation. Take somebody like my mom. If you ask her if she has a disability, she'll probably say no. But if you ask her if she's good with technology, she'll probably say heck no. I hate
Mhm.
this stuff. It drives me crazy. Somebody like her, if she can't find what she's looking for, she's going to go somewhere else.
Right.
And she wouldn't necessarily count toward the 2 point whatever trillion, over 2 trillion. Um, there's a
Because,
dispute as to what the decimal point says. I don't think it makes any difference what the decimal point says. It's over
well,
2 trillion, for heaven's sake. That's a lot of money.
yep. Yep. And how have you found the solving of the problem for businesses? When you solve it, you're also solving for a larger market, you found. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Right. So the larger market is the general market. Accessibility equals usability.
Mm,
And like I said, somebody like my mom, a good user experience, if she doesn't have to make an undue effort to buy your product, she's a lot more likely to buy it.
right. Right. And a lot of people don't understand that having more sections doesn't mean more business. They think more just means more, you know.
I'm gonna tell you a story that illustrates this. Um, a while back, I was ordering a pizza, and I was using the mobile app. Can't remember what company it was. Doesn't matter. But I had to update my debit card. It expired or whatever. So okay, so I'm entering my card information, and I get to the point where I enter in my expiration date. And the entity that you're supposed to use to update the expiration date was somewhere between an edit box, a date picker, and a rat's nest. I'm really not sure what it was supposed to be, but one thing it wasn't was accessible. So my son was there. He was 16 at the time, and I said, can you just do this? Yeah, here. So he's fighting with it and fighting with it, and finally he goes, "This isn't even accessible to sighted people."
Wow.
So I asked him later, as I was building the foundation for this business. I said, "Remember what you said about the expiration date not being accessible to sighted people? How often does it happen that when I give you something to help me with that's inaccessible, you have trouble with it too?" And he said 50 to 60% of the time.
Wow.
Now, my son is a techie. If I have problems with my computer, I go to him.
Wow.
So if he's saying 50 to 60% of the time,
Then it's bad.
right, what's your average person going to say?
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I like how your story comes out of necessity, right? So you were having a problem and you decided to solve that problem by doing it yourself. You being the one to go in and say, "You know what? I'm going to fix this problem." Um,
Yep.
can you tell us about your entrepreneurial journey? How has that been? Like, is it are you having a great experience? Are you finding that you're getting customers regularly? Like, what has your journey looked like?
We're in the marketing phase right now.
Right.
Um, we built the foundation. We've got our big four um, accessibility courses based on the three categories, which are digital, physical, which is like anything from wheelchair ramps to environmental things like food allergies. And then there's cultural, which talks about really the attitude that an organization has to difference. Difference is ordinary. Difference is really no big deal. It's just different. Um, I've got the four courses. I've got some group coaching offerings, and I've also teamed up with another company. We do like auditing and remediation. So if your website's not accessible, we'll fix it for you, or we'll teach you how to fix it. Either way, it's personalized. Everybody's going to need something different. Um, but yeah, you mentioned being a part of the solution, and that's exactly what I want to do. Too many times you get hit over the head with the ADA. well, you got to be accessible because of the ADA. And first of all, what exactly does that mean? What exactly is accessible? And second of all, you never persuade anybody to genuinely embrace something by scaring them.
Mm.
I don't want you to be accessible because you're afraid of a lawsuit. I want you to be accessible because it's the right thing to do. It's good for people with disabilities. It's good for everybody. And ultimately, it's good for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, and I definitely understand. And how long have you been in this sector?
I've been working in the accessibility space for, like I said, technically since 2021, though I've been doing accessibility work for years before then.
Right.
This business just started this year.
Okay. And
So,
have you seen any changes in the industry?
I think people are beginning to realize the business case for accessibility. People are beginning to realize that accessibility truly is beneficial to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're moving slowly but surely from a compliance mindset to a, you know, let's do this because it makes our life better mindset.
And do you think technology, the advancement in technology, do you think that has anything to do with it?
I think technology is a double-edged sword.
Mm.
Um, on one hand, there are automatic testing tools that you can use that I use myself that help test websites. So, for example, I use an automatic testing extension that it will find some errors. A good automatic tester will find about 30% of errors. You got to find the rest of them manually. But one of the errors that it will find is color contrast. I don't know
Oh,
about you, but it's kind of hard for a totally blind person to eyeball something and determine color contrast. So it's a big help. Now, there are many things. For example, does the alt text, the description of an image, actually convey the meaning of the image? Is
hmm.
the button labeled so that I know what the heck it is? I had one form I was trying to fill out a bunch of years ago that the submit button and the cancel button were labeled the same way.
Oh,
I don't know how that happened. I'd never seen it before or since, but needless to say, that was a problem.
wow.
uh,
Wow.
you need both. So technology can be a help. It can also people can become dependent on technology. That's the drawback of AI, right? Is when people stop seeing it as an assistant and start seeing it as something that they can depend on. Um, there are some automatic accessibility tools on the market that promise you that they will make your website compliant. Let me say clearly, if a tool promises full compliance, they are not telling you the truth.
Hmm.
There are also plugins that you can use that actually enhance the experience. So they allow the user to customize colors and various things so that they can enhance their own experience on your site. Those are good plugins. If they don't promise compliance, if they promise that they're part of the solution, that's something that you can consider doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I heard you say before that you were working doing compliance before. How did you find that experience, and what made you want to branch out into your own business?
And to be honest, compliance work is boring. You know, WCAG is which is, I'm sorry, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, which is the basically the compliance Bible when it comes to web accessibility. Is It's a good reference. It really is. And if you familiarize yourself with it, you'll know, you'll have a pretty good idea of most things that you should be looking out for. But sitting there and auditing the website and applying standards to everything, I like to teach. I like to um, I like to show people how accessibility truly does benefit everybody. And again, not just digital accessibility. Let's look at physical spaces, right? If you own, say, a restaurant, and you've got an entrance that is accessible to someone using a wheelchair, and you've got a restroom that's accessible to someone using a wheelchair, you're ADA compliant. You're good. But if you've got a potted plant blocking the path to the restroom,
Oh,
then that's a problem, right?
oh,
But again, doesn't it benefit everybody when things are spaced wide enough apart? I was talking to somebody the other day about store aisles, right? You have these store aisles that are like that wide.
mm-hmm.
So if you walk down the aisle, you knock stuff off on both sides.
Oh,
I don't know if there are statistics to back this up. I'm sure there's a study somewhere. There's a study of everything else. But I would bet you that customer satisfaction is increased when aisles are wider, when things are spaced out, when important things that you want aren't 7 feet off the ground.
mm-hmm.
You need an NBA basketball player with you to be able to reach them. I would bet you that has a tremendous positive effect on overall customer satisfaction.
Yeah, yeah.
Someone
I'm sure it would.
Hmm?
No, I'm saying I'm sure it would.
Not to mention, someone can just drive their wheelchair into the building, get what they need, pay, and drive their wheelchair back out again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm also thinking too that I'm sure when delivery services and all other services came about, it also helped, but it doesn't help when the delivery services website you can't get access to.
That defeats the purpose, right?
That defeats the purpose. So it's a double-edged sword.
There are delivery services that that I don't use because others are better.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know when the last time was I actually went into a grocery store.
Wow.
Because I can just browse the app, and as I need something, I can just put it in my virtual cart, and then when I'm done, I can just check out. Now my son, and again, he's fully sighted, but he's just the opposite. He actually likes to be able to go in the store and look at things.
Mm-hmm.
He prefers it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, in-person shopping has not gone away. In
No.
fact, I think what we could see, it's a backlash after COVID, after really the online shopping revolution, but I think you're going to see a groundswell of young people like my son that actually prefer to go into the store and do it in person.
Yeah, absolutely. After being indoors and not being able to, you tend to appreciate the things that you couldn't do before or that you could do before, right?
It's like perpetual cabin fever, right?
Right, right, right.
Now,
You know,
I have always hated going shopping. if I could, if I could do all my shopping online, I would. But there's some things like clothes shopping that I don't trust the process of doing it online, so I have to bite the bullet and do it in person.
Yeah.
Um,
But I'm sure if it were easier or more accessible, then at that point it would be less of a chore or a task, but more of you'd enjoy the experience more.
yeah,
Yeah, I definitely get that. I wanted to find out from you if you could have started this business earlier, would you give that advice to your younger self? Like, this is something that you should have done 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or do you think the time is now?
I think the time is now. I think I'm older and wiser. If I had started it 10 years ago, I would have gone about it differently. I would not have taken the pro business attitude that I'm taking now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I did have a venture in 2022 that failed. And if I could go back and put my arms around my younger self and talk to her, I'd say two things. I'd say, look, first of all, start small and stay sustainable. If you don't start making money in the first year, you're not going to start making money in the first year. Um, if you pitch something to a company, it might take a year before they get it into their budget. Whether even though they want to do it, they really want to do it, but it takes a while to get it into the budget cycle. Um, the second thing I'd say is you have what it takes to do this. I thought I needed partners because I didn't have the confidence in myself to run my own business.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is, I didn't need partners, I needed advisors.
Wow. Can you say that again and say it louder?
I didn't need partners, I needed advisors.
Mm, I
I
love it.
needed people not to help me run the business, but to talk to me and call me out on my BS and tell me
Mhm.
when I was about to run off a cliff. Everybody in their life needs at least one person that's not afraid to call them on their BS.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my son is my harshest critic because he's my biggest fan.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Mentorship is, and I have found the most number one important thing when starting a business.
Yep.
Someone that can look in from the outside and give you guidance and is 10 steps or even 5 steps ahead of where you are and can help you to get where you need to be.
And it helps me to have people that don't have disabilities.
Mm. Explain.
Right, because it's easy for me to sit here and say, you need to be accessible and here's why and here's why. But maybe there's something in my messaging that is missing.
Oh, okay.
Maybe there's something that I can say or some consideration I'm not thinking of, or some misunderstanding about disability that escapes me because I've been a blind person all my life. I don't know what it is to look at blind people from a sighted person's perspective.
Oh, wow. And that I would say is in everything. If you come from one side or perspective, it's oftentimes very difficult to see through the eyes of someone else who is coming from somewhere else, or walk in their shoes or feel their pain because you don't know what you don't know.
My son is constantly reminding me that most people have never actually interacted with a blind person,
Mm,
which for me, I got blind friends all over the country. What do you mean? Blind people everywhere, right?
yep, yep, yep. And you're 100% right when you say that. you're right. They probably have never, you know, interacted, nor do they know how to set up a system for something that they've never experienced.
You have to put them at ease. You have
Mhm.
to, and you have to laugh about it. You know, you have to have a sense of humor about it. I walked into work yesterday, and every single time I walk into work, my boss, says hi to me. Hi, da 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 da. So I walked in yesterday, and I said, hey, and I started updating my boss on something, and the coworker that was sitting there was like, "The heck are you talking about?" And turns out my boss, my boss had a conference that day. She wasn't in the office. I assumed she was there because she always is at that time. And I just started talking to her without knowing she was. And it's one of those,
Oh,
you just got to laugh about it, because it's just one of those. This is one of those silly things that happen to you when you're a blind person. It doesn't make you less capable. It doesn't make you
right.
less confident. It's just, I didn't investigate the situation before I walked in. It's just one of those silly things that happens sometimes.
Yep. Yep. But you know what? It happens to everyone. It's
Yep.
not just being blind, right? We all uh, make assumptions then.
We all have those moments.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And you're doing you're on your entrepreneurial journey while still working. How has that either inhibited or enhanced your growth of your business?
It's about balancing. I have to make sure that I give my day job the time and attention that it deserves.
Mm-hmm.
But it truly is about balancing. Sometimes I get mad at my day job for interfering with my business, but that's not my day job's fault.
Right.
You
Right.
know, they're paying me to do a job.
Exactly.
And you have to balance. Luckily my son is 18, um, but when he was younger, I was balancing work and school and kid, and sometimes I felt like they better come out with that Angela super duplicator here pretty soon, because just having one Angela just isn't enough.
And I think a lot of parents struggle with that. I definitely think a lot of parents struggle with that. You want to clone yourself.
I tell people, blind parents should have been born with two extra hands, because you need one hand for your long white cane or your guide dog. You need one hand for your kid, and then you need two extra hands for all the other stuff you got to carry around.
Oh man. Oh, oh. And again, perspective, right? Because I never would have even thought of that before you even said it.
But you do, you figure out ways to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think everything breeds from the need to be able to do something always breeds ingenuity. So we always figure out a way to do things when other things don't work or they're not working.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. So on this journey, right, of having the business, what advice would you give to someone that's thinking about starting a business? Would you advise them to stay working at the same time, or get funding right away, or what are your thoughts on it?
Two things. One, don't start a business unless you are passionate about the subject.
Mm, okay.
Um, I've had people call me and say, I want to start a business. What business should I start? And that's the wrong way to do it, because you're going to get burnt out with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you're going to be eating, drinking, and sleeping and breathing that doggone business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the other thing I would say is, don't quit your day job until your business can support you.
Wow.
If you are stressed out financially, you're going to make dumb business decisions out of desperation. You just are. um, because it affects the way you think. It affects the way you don't look at things long term. You make mistakes. You make short term decisions that
Mm-hmm.
end up being penny wise and dollar foolish. It's just where at all possible. Um, don't quit your day job until your business can support you. And in terms of funding, I'm bootstrapping this.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, if you take out a business loan, you're going to have to pay it back whether your business succeeds or not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you have somebody invest, people aren't going to invest in businesses that don't have some sort of proof of concept. If they do, it's rare. But each investment contract is different in terms of whether and when and to what extent they expect to be paid back.
Mm.
Um, if you're not beholden to anybody, you can run your own business the way you see fit.
And let me ask you, do you think there are any advantages or disadvantages of starting a business if you have a disability?
Um, I'm in a position, and my son actually pointed this out to me. I'm in a position where I leverage my disability as
Mm-hmm.
a this gives me more experience, more authority.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also, being a totally blind businesswoman, that gets people's attention.
Mm-hmm.
It makes people stop and look because people don't see that every day.
Mm-hmm.
So, in terms of marketing, yeah, I leverage it in a good way. And I won't, but here's the thing. Everybody has something that they can leverage
Yeah.
as a strength. Um, having a disability from a practical perspective does have its, inconvenient moments, especially when it comes to transportation. But it also, it is what it is. It is what it is. And everybody has things, everybody has characteristics and things that are both advantages and disadvantages.
Mm-hmm.
And the key that you have to remember is play to your strengths. Set yourself up to play to your strengths and succeed. Because when we highlight our disadvantages, and that's one of the biggest problems I see in society today. We are too busy highlighting our disadvantages and what sets us apart. And I belong to this marginalized group, or I belong to that marginalized group. And what message are we sending ourselves when we focus on those things?
Mm-hmm.
We're
No,
sending,
I
sending ourselves
agree.
you can't message. We need to focus more on the you. We need to focus on our you cans.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I like that you're leaning into your strength, which is the fact that you're using this and saying, hey, listen, this is what has been labeled as a disability, but it's actually a strength of mine.
Yep, it just is.
Well, it is your strength because you can see what people with sight can't see.
Well, I have the perspective, and it's interesting because I have the perspective of somebody with a disability. I also have the perspective of a business owner
Mm-hmm.
and the concerns of a business owner. And I'm able to bring those two perspectives under one umbrella of reality and work with the business owner to craft an accessibility solution that works.
Absolutely.
And it's usually not as hard or as expensive as you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Or if there is a lot of work that needs to be done, we can figure out what to do first and what to save for the next budget cycle.
Mm. And do you work with multiple agencies? So, for example, agencies that work on multiple customers' websites, or are you direct to consumer?
It's a both and. You have to work with third party web developers.
Right.
Um, and you have to show them how to leverage accessibility to best serve their clients. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, one of the things that we can do for our business clients, is intercede with a third party company that's working on their website and say, look, this is the problem. This is how fixing it can help your client, and this is ultimately how fixing it can help you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I had somebody a while back tell me, I work with all these third party companies, and I just don't have the time and the resources and the means to advocate with them to make their things accessible. So, frankly, I just don't want to deal with this. It's overwhelming. I don't want to deal with it. But that's where we can come in and help.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we can, because the reality is that both legally and in the court of public opinion, if you are using a third party website slash application slash whatever that is inaccessible, that's going to reflect on you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's unfair, but I don't have to like it to understand that it's true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I like the position you're coming from, and I'm just sitting down here thinking about the fact that what you're doing is going to change a lot of websites, change a lot of things, and I'm really excited about where you're going with this.
Well, thank you. It's a fun ride, and it's going to get even more fun.
Yeah, I'm sure. Is there any way that our audience can reach you? What's the best way for them to reach you?
Go to my website. It's www.reallifeaccess.com. And it has all the things. It has my social media, it has my email, it has my newsletter subscription thing. You can subscribe to my courses. You can subscribe to the big four courses for $50 a month. So
Wow.
if maybe you can't afford the individual price, or you have an education budget, if your company has a what's it called, a professional development budget, $50 a month gives you access to all four courses.
Wow.
But it has that. It has information about my group coaching. Um, I need to add some more things to it. Physician heal thyself, accessibility person fix their own website. It needs to have more things on it. But if you want to email me, my email address, if you don't want to bother with the website, my email address is Angela, Angela, at reallifeaccess.com.
Love it. Love it. Angela, I just want to say thank you so much for being a guest on our show today. I know that everything that you've talked about is super impactful, and I know that our listeners are going to get a lot from this, and they'll know exactly what to do in order to be able to help their businesses be more accessible to more people.
Well, thank you for having me. And if you're considering, looking into some accessibility, you can do this. You can become accessible. It's not going to be as hard as you think. It's not going to be as expensive as you think. We can work together and make this happen.
I love it. I love it. Angela, again, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. And for everyone listening, thank you for listening to Angela's story, and go check her out. Thank you for tuning into today's episode of Entrepreneurial Truth. One tool that I can truly recommend on how you can organize and execute systems is Notion. Notion allows you to seamlessly get information out of your head and into a centralized, organized space. Whether it's documenting processes, managing projects, or brainstorming ideas, Notion can be your go-to platform. As a special offer to our listeners, you can get started with Notion using the link in the episode description. By using our affiliate link, you not only support our podcast, but also gain access to free templates designed to kickstart your journey with Notion. These templates are specifically crafted to help entrepreneurs streamline their workflows and boost productivity. To take advantage of this offer, simply visit the affiliate link below to sign up and explore the free templates available in the resource section. Whether you're a solopreneur, managing a team, Notion can be the game changer you've been looking for. Stay tuned for more episodes where we dive deep into strategies, tools that can empower you as an entrepreneur. And don't forget to subscribe to Entrepreneurial Truth so you never miss an episode filled with actionable advice and insights. Thank you once again for joining us today. Until next time, keep innovating and scaling your business with purpose. Thanks again.